All right, so we have a video of Jaden Wood squatting. From the short clip, I'm going to go over what we can tell his strengths are, weaknesses are. If he does have problem areas where he's more likely to get hurt, what those are, and then we'll see what actually happens throughout the season. All right, guys, welcome to another Gator Theory podcast episode. My name is Kwong. Before we continue, let me just kind of qualify why I'm talking about this. So I own a functional fitness gym. We're going on our 13th year. And I've been coaching this going on to our 15th year. Okay, so like Olympic lifting, all the powerlifting movements, and then more. Right, I work with this almost on a daily basis, and I have a lot of experience with this. Okay, so usually when guys see a squat, they'll be like, "Oh, did he squat low enough?" If he squats low enough and he didn't round his back, the form is good. It's actually way more complicated than that. I'll kind of break it down a little bit, and just from these few squats that he does, we could start pointing out what is weak, what is strong, where he's more likely to get hurt, and then where there's opportunities to strengthen. So not only in the weight room is he a lot safer, he could squat more, but then when you translate this over onto the field athletically, all that power generation will be efficient, and he can maximize his athletic performance. Okay, so before we start, let's actually go over a couple things to look for in the squat. Okay, this specific squat he's doing, you can see the bar sitting on top of his traps. It's a high bar back squat. Another variation is going to be a low bar back squat, where it actually sits behind him, below the top of his shoulder blade. Usually when you do that kind of squat, then you want your thumbs over, you're going to rotate your elbows back, right? For a high bar back squat, this looks pretty good right now. Now, when he squats, let's actually draw a circle, right? Two joints are going to move, right? There's his knees, and then there's his hips, okay? Biologically, you're designed for your hips to move slightly before your knees go forward. All right, so your hips go back before your knees go forward. Okay, if someone's knee goes forward, his knees go forward first, it's telling me right away that he's used to engaging his quads before his hips, and you're going to see some biases there, right? So let's actually play this. I want you guys to notice if you can see if his knees are moving first or his hips are going back first. Right, we'll just do 2 out of the 3 squats. Right, it's almost simultaneous, but if you look, his knees actually shoot forward, and then his hips go back. Okay, uh, so if I was going to correct him, and I'm going to have him try to have his hips go back first before his knees, this squat's going to feel a lot harder for him, and he's going to feel like he's going to lose his balance. All right, and the reason why is because if you look on the screen right above me, right, there's abductors, AB as in boy ductors, and then AD as in duck, right? Adductors, okay? AB, abductors, are your hips on the outside of your body. Adductors are, think your inner thighs on the inside of your body. We'll have a video next going over adductor movement, but for him, because his knees are shooting forward first and the way he's squatting, it's a sign that his abductors are weaker than his quads, okay? When he's doing the squat, next I want you guys to look at his feet. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line here. Ideally, and this is usually from a side view, you want your weight throughout the whole squat to be balanced over your midfoot, which is right about here, or where you usually about tie your shoelace. Okay, I'm going to remove this, and then you can clearly see, right, not only does his heels move, but the second squat, his heels even come off the ground a little bit. Let's actually watch this. Right, you can see it lift as he comes up, right? The reason why it lifts, where basically his weight is shifting forward, is because this weight, and I think it's what, 315, 365, 385, right? Which probably about, I don't know, if I had to guess, a squat is probably around 500, maybe a little over. So maybe about like a high 70% lift, right? But at this point, uh, his abductors are just not able to keep up with his quad. So he's going to do a couple things to compensate to actually be able to make that lift, right? So one, the abductors support the torso. Okay, so if it's starting to run out of power, you're going to see the torso want to dip, and then as he works through it, then all of a sudden he can get his chest high again. And then two, you're going to see one compensation is that weight shift forward into the toes. So your quads are doing more of the work, and then your hips are doing less of the work, right? So let's watch his squat again. I'll point it out. So you see right there, you see how his butt shoots up and his torso kind of wants to dip. And it looks like he's kind of like fighting through something. And then once he fights through it, he could get his chest high, right? And I'm going to do this real time. You can watch it again. So squat, chest wants to dip, then he makes it through, right? This is a very, very strong dude. 385, if it's like let's just say a 78% lift, should not cause his chest to want to dip, okay? So based on what I'm seeing here, right, his abductors are weaker than his quads. What that probably means too is that his ankles are a little bit tighter. There was a great article on this maybe 10 years ago at this point on Steph Curry, right? He couldn't stop turning his ankles, and they discovered that his hips were weak. Once they started strengthening his hips, he stopped turning his ankles, because usually your body is going to rely on your hips to provide stability. If your hips are weaker, in this case, it seems like his abductors are weaker, you're actually going to lose range of motion in your ankles. It's going to create artificial stability through your ankles for lack of stability in your hips. When that happens, you're just less dynamic on your toes. You're way more likely to or hurt your ankles. So based on this pattern he has, honestly, at a lift that's not even that high of a percentage or whatever his max is, he's at more of a risk to turn his ankles. Also, you want to think for all these joints, the front and the back is supposed to work equally, right? Think of it like a circle, right? So the front and the back. If you're putting more of the weight on the front and the back isn't working equally, you're going to start producing stress on a joint in a way that your body's not designed, right? So for his knees, because he's shifting forward like that, he's more likely to get, say, like patella tendonitis, basically that tendon right under his kneecap. When he lands, when he jumps, the back isn't going to be doing enough work to cushion the jump, and then he's actually going to put a lot of stress on his patella tendon. Okay, so just based on these two lifts, these two squats that I showed, right, ankles are probably a little bit tighter, and he's actually wearing weightlifting shoes here. If you guys aren't familiar with weightlifting shoes, they're kind of like standing on a platform where your heel's more elevated, right? What that does is, one, it creates a lot more stability for a squat. It also masks a lot of weaknesses, right? So if there's different parts of your feet that are weak, you're wearing this just essentially this giant block that holds everything in place. It kind of masks weaknesses in different parts of your feet. But two, when you're elevating your heels, it will allow you to, one, get deeper in your squat. It feels like you get deeper because you don't have to close the ankle angle as much. But then also, two, when you squat, you're able to cheat a little bit and use the front side of your body more because of the position that your feet and your heels specifically is at relative to the balls of your feet. Okay, so let's actually play through this again. Squat, knee goes first, butt back, right? The chest wants to dip. Watch his heels. It actually wants to come up because he's shifting his weight forward. Right? Honestly, it's not some egregious lift. It's not egregious. It's not that bad, right? These are things that he can start correcting and changing within 3 weeks, honestly. And the squat should feel and look different for people that know what they're looking for, and then it should show up on athletic performance. Okay, so overall, it's not bad, but those are the little things that I would actually work with him on if I was a strength and conditioning coach, and I would explain the importance of this and help them kind of feel the difference between using his hips equally as his quads, as opposed to just using his quads to muscle through everything to translate over to an athletic performance. All right, guys. Next, we have Kyron Hudson. To be honest, I didn't know who he was before I started looking up some videos and make this. I just looked up college football squatting, just because what I was looking for is fairly common when I watch people squat. And unfortunately for Kyron, he's the first video I found that kind of fit this. All right, so he actually played for Penn State this past year in 2025. And then when I looked him up to see what his injuries were, sure enough, he actually had a knee injury and then was out for the rest of the game during the bowl game. Okay, and the reason why I point that out is because I'm going to show you on this what it looks like when the adductors on the inside of your legs aren't strong enough. All right, so watch his knees and watch the leg movement when he's squatting. So you see how he squats and knees want to cave in on the way up. Okay, a lot of coaches will coach and be, hey, just push your knees out. That's not actually the right cue. Okay, the knees want to come in because the adductors aren't strong enough to stabilize the knee. So far, I think I've seen 3 videos released by Florida. There's Shaden Woods, there's Laganza, and I want to say the third one was Brandon Bett. They did not have this kind of valgus or internal rotation knee movement. Just think when you have a very quick and intense version of that, when you plant your legs, that's how you tear your ACL, right? So when your adductors are strong enough to stabilize the squat all the way up, when you plant, right, your knees don't want to cave in. You're just less likely to hurt your knees when that happens, right? So Kyron unfortunately did hurt his knee, I think, in the Pinstripe Bowl for this year's bowl game. He did declare for the draft, but even from the squat, right, you can tell he is just going to be more at risk for hurting his knee playing football because his adductors aren't strong enough, even at a squat at 275, which honestly for football players shouldn't be too heavy. Okay, so again, right, this is not the angle that I want. This is through a video. We can't see really close, but when you're talking about strength and conditioning, it's not whether you're doing an Olympic lift or not. It's actually all of these movements, functional movements. Is there a focus on making sure people are pretty well balanced functionally? Because if they're not, it's going to lead to certain injury patterns. And then if you are and you do it well, you're way less likely to get hurt. But then also not even in the weight room, but then on the field, you're more likely to get proportionately stronger, where you proportionally use all the muscles that you're supposed to use to maximize your performance. Okay, so it's important to keep in mind. Just because someone can squat more or has better form or worse form doesn't mean they're better at football. If you have better form, quote unquote, or you have less imbalances that are noticeable, you're just less likely to get hurt, and then you're more likely that you're maximizing your squat. Whereas someone could have a dysfunctional squat and still squat a bunch of weight, but if they actually made it more functional, they fixed the part that's weak, then they're actually going to squat a lot more, and then they're going to be a lot safer, right? And then also it's important to realize the more athletic, the more explosive someone is, the more likely they're going to get hurt with like a movement dysfunction like this, right? If you have your grandma who's just not explosive at all, have a dysfunctional squat, they're not playing football. They're not planting their foot in the ground and then trying to drive and change direction, right? So it might be a dysfunctional pattern, but it's not going to really increase the risk of injury that much. Whereas like if you have a player like say like Jaden Woods, right, with this guy Kyron Hudson, like a high level D1 athlete that has NFL aspirations, it's very important to fix those things. Now, if you watched all the way to the end and you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to the video. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully we can put out more of these.